Hi, my name's Richard. Thanks for coming. This is my talk. So in March of 2019, I left my home city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, YWG, and I flew what felt like pretty much a month to get to Fairbanks, Alaska. Now you can see it was only 4 flights and it really only took 1 day, but it felt like a long time. And finally I arrived there. Now I was really asked to come up there for a week to give a talk for the Science for Alaska series about how I travel the world and I learn from people about how they resonate with the night sky. And at the end of the week after my stay, I was asked to be a contributor, a host for a session at the 50th anniversary of the Poker Flat Research Range. I have to admit, this was a great honor. I'm humbled that they asked me to do this. And what they asked me was like, hey, Richard, what would you like to do? Or can you talk about your ethnoastronomy? Can you build a session around that? And I was like, of course I can. Just tell me when to show up and how to show up and I'm there. Well, I did, but the name of it was a little bit suspect. I'll tell you about that in a second. As you can see, it was in the T. Neil Davis Science Operations Center up on the research range. It's sort of up in this other building, which is awesome. The picture on the bottom left-hand side of your screen right now is me. Yes, I know. You're like, is that really the same guy? His beard is a lot less gray. Yes, it was. It was a few years ago, before COVID. That picture is a good shot. They were seating for about 10, standing for about 10. And what was amazing to me is that the whole night was supposed to go from 8 till about midnight. But what ended up happening is that people were lined up on the highway outside of the gates for hours. The gates opened at 7:30. There were 800 people and families. The best part of this was interacting with them because they were families. It wasn't just adults. There were so many kids. It was amazing. So here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is that I was busy for 4 hours straight, right? Thankfully, people brought me some water and some dainties just to keep me, hydrated and full of energy. But it was amazing because I didn't stop. The bad news is that they called it a star show. Let me show you what I mean by that. So those were on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see a little video as I was walking around the second deck or the second story of this building. There was a NASA display, some scientific displays, the all-sky camera was there, but everybody seemed like they wanted to go to the star show. There was my room. Here's the deal. It was neither a star nor a show, and that title is very misleading and nebulous because that's not at all what happened. So here's what happened. In groups of about 15 or so, people walked into the room. When they got there, they sat down, I introduced myself, I smiled, and I looked at the kids primarily because they are my favorite. And I said, tell me a date, pick a date in history or in time that if we could go back together, we could see what the sky looked like that night. And of course, all the kids there like raising their hands. They're like, pick me, pick me. So I picked a few and they're like, my birthday. And I was like, yes, your birthday, except I don't know when your birthday is. So you tell me your birthday and we'll put it into the computer. So they would tell me their birthday and then we'd pick a city or a town, either their hometown or where they lived or where I lived or somewhere in the world, which was amazing. And we would go there to see what the sky looked like over the northern horizon that night. Let me show you what I mean. For this, because you're not really hearing, this is not interactive, you can't tell me a date or time. So I'm going to pick that night that I was in Fairbanks, March 9th of 2019, looking over the northern horizon. This is what it looked like. Now, this is Solarium. For those of you, I'm sure most of you, almost all of you are familiar with this. It's free, it fits any platform. I use it when I teach my courses at the university, when I give professional development sessions, or I give talks around the world. I use this to show and to be with students and people because it's free and ubiquitous and anybody can use it just like anybody can be in awe and wonder of the sky. So here it is. I have it on the Western perspective because that's really the default of how this program is set up. It's set up for Fairbanks and that's looking over the northern horizon. You can see Cygnus there, beautiful story. It's the swan in Latin. There's a Greek story that goes with it with Zeus and Orpheus, and that in itself is an interesting story. But we're gonna leave this at this moment. So like the kids, we put it on Western perspective and we looked and they're like, oh, Draco, or look, it's Hercules or Orion or whatever. It's great. But then I said, well, what if other people have different ideas of what's up there in the sky? And some people were like, oh, I get it. And some people were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I showed them. So I put the yellow arrow to point to Cygnus, and then I changed perspectives to the Ojibwe perspective, and you'll notice that the swan now becomes a crane. It's a summer stars. A beautiful story in the Ojibwe culture about this. Arabic perspective and star lore, it's the hen, it's Deneb. Belarusian, oh, the cross, it's Peter's cross. Okay. Wait a second. I haven't changed anything. This is what I explained to them. We haven't changed anything. It's the same place, it's the same time, but yet the perspective gives us something very different. The story, the interpretation, the resonance with the sky is very different for different people. And that's okay. In fact, it's better than okay. That's really what my session was. So people sat there and like, whoa, I didn't realize this. And some people were like, yeah, this is super cool. And I've heard about this, or tell us more stories. And so I did. I told them really the most common stories about some of the constellations and asterism. I told them some of the other ones that I've learned as I've traveled the world. And I have to admit this, that there are some stories that I'm not allowed to tell. People have told me in trust and confidence of their culture. And because I'm not their culture, I'm not allowed to tell the stories, and so I don't. But use this star lore, published resources, the program itself, it's beautiful. You can see all these perspectives, which brings me to this. That night, the one night in Poker Flat, my session had really three main ideas. The first was that the sky belongs to everyone, regardless of where you are from and how you identify. It doesn't matter. The sky belongs to you. Get back to this in a second. The second main idea is that resonance with the sky can be meaningful and personal, and the depth of that resonance is subjective. For some people, they never think about it. For other people, they go outside on a clear night to look up at the sky and they connect with it. And they're like, this is touching my soul. This ignites my spirit. So for people, there's really everything from that spectrum to the other side. And third, people coming together under the awe and wonder of the sky can elicit empathy for others. Now, this is a big statement, and I know. I get a lot of pushback on this from, well, people around the world who don't necessarily believe this to be true. But I believe it to be true, and I do these sessions because of it. So here's the thing. The first point was really easy, right? That first point, super easy. Because it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It doesn't matter from where you are from or how you identify or what nationality you have on your passport. The sky belongs to you. End. There's no debate about this. The second point was made easier because I kept flipping through the star lore. I kept changing it. And for some people, it was obvious and they've seen it before. And for other people, they're like, this is all new. And that's great because it got them thinking, and it got us thinking, it got kids thinking, and it really got everybody thinking like, whoa. The stories are equally true for different people, and they're different stories. Well, that's kind of amazing. Well, the session was coming to an end just like this one, and I had to kind of wrap it up. So how could I put this all together? So I'm going to do it right here. The third point is that if we start believing that all of the stories can be true, even though they're different for different people, regardless of who they are, where they identify from, or how they connect with the sky, then we're good. Communicating astronomy for the public, in the public, with the public, has to be formal and informal, and has to remind people that the stories can be true, and that's okay. Thank you so much. Email me, tweet me. Thanks for coming.